So I wanted to put this up a little bit earlier, but the video that I did with reframing, I didn't super like the example that I gave. So I wanted to give a little bit more information and focus specifically on that aspect. And so what I'm talking about is how do you reframe your negative thoughts? And first it becomes aware of your negative thoughts, and you can only do that by observing your behavior. So there's a process, and as I'm talking about it, I'm realizing that there's been a lot of work put in that I didn't recognize before, but it's just sort of identifying something that you either rag yourself over or that makes you feel really small and limited, and find a different way to think about it. Here's my cat. And so I gave the example of art, and I said, oh, I'm bad at art. And that is, like, I have goals and desires to improve. Even when I'm looking at AI art, I'm like, I could draw like that someday, you know? And like, I have that fire, that passion. But when I pick up a pad of paper and a pencil, it goes away, and I just feel kind of intimidated. And then I try to draw something, and I'm like, oh, I suck. And it's just like this negative reinforcement. And so there's a whole process of breaking through that negativity and being able to form a healthier network of positive reinforcement as opposed to negative reinforcement. Because what negative reinforcement does is you already feel bad about it, then you run into the thing you feel bad about, and then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so it's like, oh, well, this is why I feel bad about it. And it just makes a hole, and it makes it deeper and deeper and more difficult to get out of. And that can happen with everything in a way. That's the way that our minds are programmed, is to be protective of ourselves. It's like, the way that I've always thought of it is brains are wonderful and complex and nuanced, but there's a part of it that's still trying to do its job from the early days of humanity. And so early days of humanity, I'm talking hunter-gatherer and looking for threats and trying to identify, advantages or things to stay away from, because your brain's trying to help you survive. But the brain isn't adapted to our modern day society. So it's hardwired for a totally different setting, a totally different situation, and it's something that we need to learn how to discipline and control for our own better and greater benefit. So it's like, if we just let our brain do what it does, it's going to run us into the ground. And now it seems like increasingly more and more of the population is neurodivergent, and this is a combination of the brains evolving and the spirit evolving, but still being met with certain limitations of the body, of the mind, at least in my own personal belief. And so there's a need to recondition ourselves and recondition our network, our mental network, our neural network, our thoughts, and to position ourselves into a place of positivity and support. And so, of course, therapy is always recommended, and no, not every therapist is going to click with you or work with you the way that you'd like for them to work through. I'm in my own little procrastination crisis because I've been needing to get to a therapist for a little while, and I keep putting it off, and I keep putting it off, and I keep putting it off. So, that's just how that goes with life, right? And finally, I accepted that when I'm ready to make an appointment for the therapist, I will make an appointment, and I'm not going to guilt trip myself about, oh, I'm not making that appointment. Oh, that feels shitty, because it makes it even more difficult for me to make the appointment. Do you know what I mean? It's mental gymnastics, but it's like figuring out how your brain works and figuring out how to recondition it and reprogram it is like the best thing that you can do for yourself. And so this, going back to the original part of the video, is where we get back to noticing the negative thoughts and reframing them in a positive way. And so even though granted, I'm not terrible at art, and I do have a process that I do enjoy greatly in engaging with it. And so there's some things I feel like I'm really good at, and then I try to expand into another area, and it's like not at the same level as the stuff that I'm good at, which just makes me want to stay in that area. But then I don't feel like I'm expanding and growing, so then I stop doing it. I feel like there's a lot of people who can relate to that process. And so I end up like with this circular logic, or almost like a downward spiral of getting less and less and less of it, instead of just allowing myself to enjoy art. Right? And so I do enjoy art, and I acknowledge that things aren't where I want it to be, but there's an element of acceptance that that's just the way things are when you're building a new skill, or when you're doing anything that's new. You're always going to suck at it. And so, small tangent, we always get caught up in this argument of talent versus practice. And people feel like, oh, they can't do something if they don't have the talent for it. And that is such a self-sabotaging way to look at things, because if you have an interest in something, you have the ability to do it. You have the ability to build up your skills, and to learn and to grow. Because if you're persistent at it, then you're going to end up becoming a lot better than people who are doing bare minimum, working on talent alone, right? And really, there's also a quote from Buddha that says, a flower in bloom doesn't compare itself to the flower next to it. It simply blooms, and it's like, stop comparing yourself to other people. I say this as much to myself as other people. But anyway, the point is that we're all a lot more capable than we think we are. And it's this gamed system that is our mind that we need to learn how to reprogram. So, once again, untangenting, going back to the original point, reframing, acceptance, acknowledgement, right? I do like art. I am going to get better. I just need to practice it. And I'm going to see it improve with time. And so I can accept that I'm not where I want to be. I'm not going to say bad, but I'm not where I want to be. But I can also say that I'm looking forward to seeing it improve. And so this process of reframing, it's like I can tell you right now, I need to do this every day. Like the way that I'm doing it right now on camera, I need to do that every day to sort of get that habit transformed. And it takes work. It takes work. And that's life. If there's anything you want in life, it takes work. And I think that let's not make that a classist thing. Money is, that's like a whole other thing. I'm totally tangenting again. Anyway, yeah, so I hope that helps. The mind is complex. A person's life is complex. But it all starts with the observation. And so just find something, anything, that you feel pops up enough times that you could be like, let's change this. So, I hate the traffic at work. I hate going to work on Monday. I really hate having to spend time with the in-laws. Like, whatever it is, right? Because you're digging a hole, and it makes it more and more difficult to get out of that. So, I hope that helps. I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor or anything. I would love to become one, but that takes time and money, and that ain't something I got right now. But I do have a lot of emotional intelligence, so hopefully that helps with something. But this is what's helped me on my journey to get to where I've been, and I hope that it helps you guys too.